see Mike Lalicich. Hey, Mike. This is great. All right, see if we can hear you. Good to have you on board, Faith, Family, and Friends. I see you, but if you can just say something. No, I think you just muted it. Can't hear you. Nope. You must have had it all right, but let's see if we get it. There we go.
How about now?
That's excellent. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. I've anticipated a number of interviews that we've done in the past 2-3 years, my wife and I, and we've had over 250 guests from the days we did radio in Maine. But I don't know that there's probably a handful that I've anticipated more than this.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Because I'm a dog person already, so that got me already. And then just following your I tell you, if I wasn't a content producer like you yourself, I probably would be addicted to your page. Seriously. And the ones that I've seen. So folks, we're zooming into Mike Lalicich. Is that right now?
Yes, sir.
You are zooming us from the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're getting ready. I read this recently. You've owned operated a Dairy Queen there in the area where you live for a number of years. And I think you're getting done, ready to retire from that.
Yes, actually, it's been our family's business now. This year is the 25th year that we've owned the Dairy Queen. But my dad had a plan, legacy type of a plan, where I took over and then my son took over. Okay. And about April of when COVID hit, in April of 2020, he took over. He did it till May of 2022, and he had enough. He didn't like it. He didn't realize what real work is.
Some of the younger generation doesn't, but
that's for sure.
Something like that really does take a lot of work. And so I'm sure that particular place has been a staple of business. How big is the town you live in there in Canada?
We live right on the border of Niagara Falls. There's about 80,000 people here, but in the summertime, it's a zoo. It's a zoo. Yes.
Wow. So take us back. It's one of the questions I asked you. I always like to ask people, whatever story that they're coming from, whether it's music or movies or faith, inspiration that helped them to do what they've done in their lives. And aside from business of Dairy Queen and managing restaurants, the big thing with you, of course, is dogs and buddy and pal. And I want you to spend some time, if you don't get too emotional, and I'm sure you will. I do, even watching one of the videos about Buddy's passing, but were you always a dog person growing up? And talk to us about that.
So I was never allowed to have a dog. When I was a kid, I would have been 7 or 8 years old. I used to go to the next door neighbor's house every day and sit with their German Shepherd.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because mom and dad didn't like dogs. They weren't dog people at all. Wow. So I used to sit every day with this German Shepherd, and that's where I fell in love with dogs. His name was Barney. I still remember his name.
Barney.
Barney.
Yeah, that's great. That's great that you were able to do that. So through the years, were you a reader? Were there dog books that you enjoyed reading that kind of fed that interest and love for dogs?
No, not at all. It's just the fact I love animals, and especially dogs. You know, my dad, when I was a very young boy, had a King Shepherd, and his name was King. And I would have been like 4 or 5 years old, and my mom and dad I would have been 2 or 3 years old. They were just married a couple of years, and they had to get rid of the dog. So from that point forward, they didn't want dogs. They just didn't want dogs.
Too much effort, maybe being fearful as you were just 2. And
too busy, I think, was one thing. They both worked a lot, and my parents were the kind of people that, you know, if you're going to own a dog, you better be able to take care of it, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think it's idealistic, and they don't end up taking care of the dog as well as the dog needs or should be taken care of. We have a rescue now that she never was taken for walks hardly, and having her with our other two, it was a bit of a process. And to see her get out and be open leash and run the first few times, it's like, what do I do? I don't know how to do this. So I think people need to think twice before they get a dog and be able to, know that they have the time to devote.
No doubt about that. So many people get dogs and then they end up chained up in the backyard, or they're not just treated the way they should be treated.
Exactly. That's so true. So your first dog, was Buddy your first dog?
No, I've had 4 shepherds. My first dog's name was Sam.
Okay.
And he lasted about 12 and a half years. He was a German Shepherd. He was a whiter colored. He was a tan Shepherd, but he was more white than tan.
Okay.
He was a great dog.
Wow. And so as you trained him very well. Have you always trained him well since Sam, or did you learn on the fly as you went along?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I perfected what I've known over the last 40 years based on my experiences with all my shepherds.
Okay.
So when I first started out, everything was the same premise in the way I trained. You just, like you said, you learn over the years like anything else. And so you tweak, you tweak it to where you want it, kind of thing. And it worked out for me. So
we want to maybe share a couple of big things that you've learned along the way that even with Sam that just seemed like, wow, take the training to a new level and realize the intelligence. Let's just say that particular species. I call the German Shepherd an MVP dog. Border Collies are kind of there too, because the Border Collie is highly intelligent. Black Labs are as well, but German Shepherds, like, wow, and they need to be trained. It's in their DNA. So was there anything in particular? Did you read books? Did you go on YouTube? Were the friends that were training as well that maybe, hey, this is a good one? And one in particular really helped you? So I'm going to say that I never read anything. I may have seen, the odd dog show where they talk about different things, and that gave me ideas. But for the most part, I did all my own training my own way. My training method is exactly opposite of most trainers. Okay. So you said something a little earlier, and I remember being 19 years old. And today I believe this with all my heart. Talk to your dog. When you talk to your dog's going to know what you're saying. And I can remember being 19 years old, and I would be around a group of people, and I'd be talking to Sam. And all of a sudden I'd get embarrassed and was like, oh my God, I'm talking to my dog. These people are going to think I'm nuts. You know what I mean? And now here we are 40 years later, and I could give a crap what anybody says. I'll talk to my dogs day and night before I'll talk to people. Yeah, that's true. They treat you quite a bit better, don't they, the dogs? Absolutely, they do. Unconditional love, trust, all of it. And that's the bond I share with my dogs. One thing that I've never done that a lot of trainers do is they give their dogs treats as reward. And I can just never figure out why. Well, I say to myself, okay, if it's a child, your child goes to school, gets an A+ on the exam and comes home, are you going to give them praise and love and inspire them to be better people, or are you going to stick a treat in front of their face and say, good job, So I believe that's a huge part of my training and my bond with my dogs. There's no treat training. It's all praise and love. Wow. I can attest to the validity of that. Not that you need me to do that, but you've seen how successful that's been. But it's an adjustment to me because I've kind of leaned more toward treats lately. I've got 3 dogs. But I have seen in the past when I was out of them, and yet I praised them how good they were and how they did what I wanted them to do right away. Seriously, Mike. And I thank you for, I'm convicted. I need to put them away. Plus I could save some money. But I've learned the last few years too, reading some books, and I think I texted a couple of authors to you that we may or may not mention, but it's helped me is, of course, feeding them better food and allowing them to be off leash as much as possible. And I've seen you do that with Pal, and I'm sure you did it with Buddy. There was one video I watched, you were in the 7-Eleven or a store, and Buddy was right out there by near the fence, crossing the gas pumps, and he stayed right there while you went in the store.
Yes.
How long did it take to do that particular?
Not long at all. Not long at all. No, it wasn't just the store. It's we practice, you know. I'll make him sit in a certain spot in the house, and I'll go hide somewhere, and then I'll call him. And so he'll come, but he's not allowed to come until I call him. And that's how we all learn. All my training is, so the first thing I tell anybody who wants to train their dog is learn to play hide and seek in your house with your dog.
Okay.
Honestly, it just gives them it gives you a bond instantly.
Yes.
And it helps your dog be more receptive to commands. So when he's sitting there and you go hide someplace, and so there, if you go hide someplace, you come up with a phrase. And mine would be either bye buddy, see you later, or bye pal, see you later. And I'd say it fast, like bye pal, see you later. And then pal would come flying looking for me. And when he found me, I would give him over exaggerated praise and love. No truths.
Yeah, that's great. Wow,
so when you take that outside, now he's learned that, you know, we play a half hour a night for a few weeks. You take that outside and your dog goes to walk away from you, and you go, bye boy, bye pal, see you later. Right away, stop, turn around, and come back to you.
I see. Wow.
See what I'm saying?
It's like you're building on what he'd already learned. It's like scaffolding, you know, so that he becomes a mastery of that. And I've heard too that you don't want to introduce a lot of new commands. You want to stay with those few until they master it before you might introduce something else, because they get confused. Human beings get confused. Well, a dog would, of course, but
of course.
That's amazing.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. You got a few commands till they learn the basics, and the important ones like perimeter training, not being able to leave your property. Right. And once they learn that, then all bets are off, and you can just teach them. They literally can learn anything you want them to learn, in my opinion.
So let's talk about the backside of that. Like in that training that you've done, or even with Sam or Buddy and Pal, were there times when they didn't do what you asked, and did you respond in a disconsolate way? And how was that connection? Not like angry, because there are some people that train that way, which I'm totally antithetical to, but.
Yeah, so I learned a long time ago when I went to get Nike, which would have been my second dog. I remember going, I used to go visit him, like before I picked him up. I purchased him when he was 5 weeks old. For the next 3 weeks, I would go visit him twice a week. I would drive an hour and a half to go visit him twice a week, just to get to know him so he could get to know me when he come home to transition.
Okay.
And I remember going in the 7th week, and I begged the lady to let me take Nike home. And she said, Mike, I can't, you don't understand. He needs this extra week with his mother. So I said, why is that? She says, Nike is an alpha, and the alphas want to control everything. Mom's got to let him know who's boss. So I'm sitting watching, and Mom comes out of the pen, and a bunch of puppies follow. Mom turns left, all the puppies turns left. Nike turns right. So he goes off on his own. So I'm watching, and I'm watching the mom play with the dogs and have fun. And then all of a sudden she'd look up. Every 10 minutes this happened. She would look up, she'd spot him, she'd fly over to him and grab him by the scruff of the neck. And right away he'd go, like, you know, that, like, she's teaching him who's boss. So I implemented that into my own training. I've never laid my hands on my dogs other than to grab them by the back of the neck like their mom does. And they freeze. They literally freeze when you do that. And it's a reminiscent of how mom brought them up.
From when both Buddy and Pal or even Sam were young, then you would,
Absolutely, absolutely. No doubt about it.
yeah,
And they learn quick, right? They learn super quick.
yeah, they do. They are so, um, they're so acute to every move and word that we say, aren't they? I
Yeah.
read somewhere, I don't know if it was Ted Karasote's Merle's Door, his follow-up Puka, but somewhere I read that even the absence of what you would normally do, they perk up on because they love routine.
Yes.
So when you build that routine, and if you're a person of routine, if you're not a person of routine and you got a dog, I would think that you need to become a person of routine, right?
So true. Yes.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more, Ralph.
And even you can elaborate on this, and we'll probably stop blabbering and crying about our dogs here in a moment. But they are so keen to our emotions and how we are feeling at anyone, and not just sadness, but anger or dysregulation in the home. I've got a dog. She's 7 years old. My wife and I get a disagreement. She is so sensitive. She'll go right upstairs. She don't want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is just like one of my kids. I can't argue in front of the kids. I can't argue in front of my dogs.
Yeah,
So
that's the truth.
it's just
Yeah.
amazing, isn't it? And
It really is.
they've proven this, and I think dog people knew this all along. We just didn't do the science of it, that there's a chemical inside of both animals, dogs particularly, because they've been domesticated through the years, I believe, from wolves. And man, it's oxytocin that they did a test, a blood test with the oxytocin, which is a social chemical, rises and spikes when the owner of the dog pats the dog, in both the animal and the dog. That's incredible.
It really is.
That long time ago, didn't you, Mike?
No, I didn't. No, honest, I
Well, I
didn't.
just meant the
Honest,
connection.
I definitely learned. I never would say, if I don't know, I'll tell you, I didn't know that. But it's true.
You can
It's
see
true.
how
I
it's true. Yeah.
You just, they're breathing alone. Just the breathing alone, when you start to pet your dog,
Yeah.
their dog's breathing changes.
The heart rate, yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And they've proven how healthy it is for human beings to have dogs through the years.
Yes. Oh,
So-
for sure. Well, for me in particular, I'm a single guy,
Right.
and I don't know where I'd be without a dog. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's just the kind of person I love dogs.
Yeah. And that's awesome. There are some people that don't, that's their boat, but don't judge those of us who do, where we're true in love with our animal.
Yes.
And maybe this kind of is sort of predecessor statement toward maybe talking about how soon you lost Buddy, how difficult that must have been. But I read somewhere, and I don't know if it was a written response from an author of a dog book. And that's part of my bucket list, to own all the books that have ever been written about dogs, both fiction and nonfiction. It's quite a dog bucket list, but I'm on my way from Lassie to whatever. But somebody once said that we who love dogs, it seemed like we mourn more for the loss of a dog because we have no know-how to grieve an animal, where we have a process of how to do that with a loved one. It doesn't mean, from those judgmental people that think that we love our dogs too much, that we love our dogs more than, say, our spouse or our mom and dad. But it's just we have no model for it. I mean, we have funerals, celebrations of life, obituaries. We have a way of saying goodbye through hospice. But with animals, I think that's part of what makes it so difficult. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree 1,000%.
Wow. And it doesn't get any easier. So when you lost Sam, I think you probably more expected it. He was 12.
Yeah.
And the other dogs, how many did you have after that?
So there was Sam, Nike, Buddy, and now Pal. Both Nike and Buddy died of cancer. Nike at 4.5 and Pal at 5.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. And so no wonder you're on the now that you're retired from the Dairy Queen, and you don't have to deal with that. And not only training, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but try to find out why dogs are getting so many cancers. And maybe it kind of goes along with there's a lot of cancer in human beings as well. And who knows?
So
yeah.
what I did was, when I was devastated when Nike passed from cancer, but when Buddy passed, like I was obviously devastated, but I was angry.
Yeah.
So I literally took everything I put in that dog's mouth and had it tested. I
Really?
spent like $6,000 on testing to see if there's any cancerous in the food and everything.
Yeah.
And the only thing that came, Bravecta, like, you know, for flea and tick, you
Okay.
read on the internet, it's really bad for them, that's the causing cancer. I had it tested. There's nothing in it that would say that would give a dog cancer.
Okay.
The only thing that came back wrong was the water in Niagara. There was too much fluoride in the water in Niagara. And that can cause, yes, that can cause cancer in dogs.
Because that whole fluoride thing, the dentist, there's a lot of news and research about how that may not have ever been good for us in our tooth health or teeth health.
Yes, yes.
So if that's true for us, I suppose it would be even more detrimental to dogs whose system of metabolism probably couldn't handle it.
Exactly.
So
I'm not saying that's the case, but that's the only thing that came back. It could be it could be genetics. It could, you just don't know, right? You just don't know.
Because you lost him fairly quickly.
Yeah.
It went downhill quick, and the whole, was it about a month or two when you found out he had it?
Yeah, no, I noticed in, I believe it was September 18th, I noticed when we were playing ball, he didn't have that aggressive running that he normally does. And I thought, wow, something might be wrong. I thought it was one of his paws or one of his legs. He pulled a muscle, but no limp or anything, just not that aggressive, get my ball, you know?
Yeah.
And then about a month later, he started to have diarrhea. So it would have been sometime in late October-ish. And I thought, I got to get him to the vet. So we went to the vet. They did a bunch of tests. We went back, and then they did a cancer test, and they found out that both his spleen and liver had tumors in them, cancerous tumors in them. And they told me I would have 4 months that I would get. This was on November 12th. They said, you'll have 4 months with him. And I thought, what a great way to get another dog and let Buddy to help me train this other dog, give him a friend, the whole 9 yards. And that's where Pal comes in the picture. And then 2 weeks later, Buddy was gone.
Wow.
We didn't come close to getting 4 months.
So aggressive. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. And that's just so hard because they become such a part of your life. You know, when you had already done the social media thing, people had seen Buddy doing his thing with you, visiting your mom who has Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yes, Alzheimer's dementia, part of the dementia.
Yes. Yeah, and being so good with her. And then did it surprise you that when he passed, you received so many condolences all over the world?
Yeah, it definitely surprised me. I didn't realize we were as popular as we were. I knew we had followers, but I didn't realize our popularity, and I mean all over the world. I got letters and messages from all over the world. It was amazing. It really was.
That's amazing. Did you have him cremated or
yeah? So one thing I insisted on is that the vet come to my house. And Buddy was put he was put down in his chair. So he was in his chair when he passed away.
Yeah.
But I did it from what the doctor or the vet told me, I did it at the perfect time, because the night that I started noticing around 4 p.m. that he was having a really bad day. And I knew something was up. And I find out after the fact that his spleen, the liver and spleen gets up until it literally basically explodes, and then they bleed inside. And that was what was happening to him that night. So they came to the house, they put him down, they took him away, and they brought me a urn back a few weeks later. And I still have a little shrine set up just for him.
That's great. Wow. So powerful. I don't know if you're a person of faith, but I know that when my dog passed away, Sam, I'm a praying man. We pastor here. I said, God, you got to give me something on where Sam is. I need to know for sure. I mean, I have people on the right telling me that dogs don't go to heaven, and people on the left telling me they do. And long story short, because we're talking to you tonight, but it's not about me, but God just delivered a story, a true story about a lawyer that we've actually had on the show. And when he was young, and his dog died in his arms, got ran over, and he was just distraught, as you can imagine. He was like 10 years old. And so he went to bed that night, and he dreamed that this man with long hair and a beard with a robe, this guy wasn't raised Christian or church or anything, had his dog in his arms. And then he woke up and went to the breakfast table, and his brother started talking to him, and he said, hey, Josh, I had this dream last night. It was the exact same dream that Josh had. And then, of course, I found a couple articles that were the odds of these articles coming to my attention when I wasn't even looking, really, that put some certain scriptures. I'm like, I'm convinced. Theologically,
Wow,
I always felt like I've got to send you that article. I think you would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I would like to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when people try to get all self-righteous and tell me God doesn't care enough about dogs, I'll tell them, well, you know what the Bible says? The lamb will lie down with a lion. So if there's a lamb and a lion in heaven, there's sure the heck going to be a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you'll see your buddy someday, and I'll see my Sam. But I've often thought, it might be helpful to do it because, as we said earlier, it's difficult to put in perspective the loss of a dog because we have no framework for it.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody somewhere has to, if they've already done it, do a funeral service for a dog, and just gather people around who've never had the chance to mourn and share their story, and bring their urn in or their pictures, and we can all have a good crying session, I guess.
It's a great idea. It really is.
And share those pertinent scriptures that I feel that, like the one I just shared. But so when Buddy passed, having Pal there must have been a huge healing, but still you missed Buddy. So what was that progress or process like?
So I'll never forget the day after Buddy passed. So we put him down at 6:30 on November 30th.
This is 2022.
2021, sorry. Sorry, 21.
Yep.
We put him down on November 30th, 2021. And I remember waking up the next day and just feeling awful. And then I remember thinking, I made a mistake getting this dog, meaning Pal. That I did this more for Buddy. I shouldn't have done this. And then 2 days passed, and I believe I don't want to cry.
Sorry, Mike.
I believe in my heart that God, between God and Buddy, that saved me.
Yeah,
that's the truth. Yeah. That's God's honest truth.
That's good. Wow. Yeah, you thought you were doing it for some other reason, and then it happened so quick he couldn't train him, and then you found out the real reason.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Because even today, I don't know what I'd do without Pal. Yeah. Even today, it's a year and a half or more than a year and a half. It's about a year and a half later. And I still don't know what I would do without him,
That video of him, I mean, ones of yours don't make me leak from the eyes and get my allergies going, but I hadn't seen this one till recently when I was just putting things together, promoting tonight's show with you, where he goes out and meets that girl on the bike. Oh my gosh.
That's Pal. That wasn't Buddy. That was Pal.
No, right. It's Pal. So we could talk a little bit about Pal, but, and I want to, whoever is watching tonight, you got to see that one. But in your training of Pal, same kind of process like with Buddy, do you notice any differences? Because dogs have their own personalities. Maybe some are more apt to obey a certain command, where maybe the other wasn't. And you love them both the same, I'm sure. How could you compare the two?
Honestly, and maybe I can go back to all four of them. I'm again, I don't know if it's my faith in it all, or I believe that each dog and each shepherd I've had is an extension of the one before. So I see all of Buddy's characteristics in Pal, and I see Nike in Pal, and I see Sam in Pal. I mean, it's like this reincarnated dog over and over again.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I mean it. It's crazy. Now, the difference between the four of them is Pal's the most stubborn. There's no doubt about that. He's stubborn.
So it's taking a little longer on some aspects.
Yes. But same mannerisms. Like there's some videos where Pal goes out and lies on the front lawn. I mean, it's a front lawn. How do they pick the exact same spot to lie in? It just does it like it makes my hair on my arms stand up. Like, how does that happen?
Quite psychic, yes. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And so how old is Pal now at this point?
He's a year and a half.
Year and a half. So knowing or thinking about the fluoride in the water in Niagara, are you doing anything to like getting bottled water?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't drink tap water, so I'm not gonna let my dog drink tap water.
Yeah. So keep it away from puddles, I suppose, even, right? Because you never know.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So do you belong to a group of friends who have German Shepherds? Do you, when Pal go anywhere, visit other dogs? Or
we see dogs every day. Every day we see dogs. People actually, believe it or not, people actually drive from as far as Ottawa to come and meet Pal. So he's always meeting people or dogs or he's very socialized. He's really socialized, and that's really important for all dogs, not just my dog, all dogs.
Now, I had this happen to me once, and maybe you could comment on it. But I had my dogs walking them on a leash back home because leash laws. Even though I think they would have been good off leash, but there's three of them I had, and we were walking and we met this gal from Germany who had three dogs, big Afghan kind of dogs, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. The road was slippery with ice. I lost control of mine. She lost control of hers, but guess what? They never bit. They never fought. They could feel the tension on the end of the leash, which is half the reason why I think dogs pretend or act like they're going to be aggressive. When you let go, they let go. And the dogs started licking each other. Of course, they smelled each other, but they never fought. And I'm like, I'll never forget that moment. And she and I looked at each other like, what the heck? And so then we went on our way. It was like, that was like an example from God to show me it's all in what you think. And a lot of this is just myth and untruths that we perpetrate to try to keep ourselves safe, and playing into maybe even, and maybe if we had time, we could talk more about this, but breed specific legislation, that maybe one group of dogs are worse than the others. I think probably it's our perspectives. What, maybe you could comment on that, and maybe what you think of leash laws.
So, I believe in the leash law because where we're from, the leash law states you have to have complete care and control of your dog at all times.
Right.
And that's our leash law. So because he's not on leash, I still have complete care and control. So I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. Yeah. If there was one time that Pal or Buddy ever took off on me or ran away or anything, they'd never be off leash again. It's just the way I feel. I mean, I feel like I have that total control. And it's, as for breeds, I believe, everyone talks about pit bulls. Well, listen, I've seen pit bulls be mean. I've seen Chihuahuas be mean. I've seen Cocker Spaniels, German Shepherds. It's not the dog. It's the person bringing up the dog. I don't care. You can give me the meanest dog in the world. And in a couple of weeks, that dog will be a big softie, just like me. Yeah. It's the truth.
That's so true. I was reading it. It's hard to believe, but in Caruso's second book on Puka, he went all over the world. I guess finding Merle on the Colorado River just totally transformed his life. He continued to work, and I think he still does for Nat G as a photographer, but he found a little town in France that's totally off leash, the whole town. And there's none of the dogs, and they all get along. That's quite a rare occasion, but I would like to visit that town.
Yeah, I would too, actually.
Cool.
You
So,
you said a little earlier, you said that when you were walking the dogs and it was slippery and the dogs were pulling and you ended up
Yeah.
having to let them go. How were you feeling at the second when were you the or were like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
Your dog picked up on your feelings and that's what made him do that. I truly believe in that, you know. Your dog knows your feelings at all times. And if
yes.
you're feeling anxious,
Yeah.
they're going to feel anxious.
Anxious too, yeah. And we don't think often enough how from, if we don't get them from a pup like you have, because a lot of people getting strays, which is a good thing, because
Yes.
it's homes too, is that background of brokenness, like the third one we've got now, to kind of take Sam's place, although we should never will, but we love it to death, is all that brokenness, that lack of attention, that
Yes.
need to play and not know how to play. And
Yes.
taking that time, it's like a human being, you know, that's broken and has those places in their heart and life that weren't attended to, as well as maybe some of us others who are more blessed or lucky. So
No, it's so true. You look at prisoners. A prisoner goes into jail for 10 years. He comes out, he's lost.
yeah,
He doesn't know what to do or how to act, or he's been in jail 10 years. So what makes a dog any different?
right,
You know, like, come on.
yeah.
So I agree with that 100%.
So you're gonna, or maybe you've already started the business to train, and what's that look like now?
Well, I've trained a few for friends, and I give you a good example of what we were just talking about. This girl tells me she's having trouble with her dog. There's no way. Every time it sees a dog, it goes crazy. It goes crazy. So I bring Pal and we go do a training session. And I say, all I want you to do is walk Pal past me. Just walk him past me and I'll walk your dog. Well, of course, her dog was a little aggressive, but I told her, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my chin up. I'm going to stick my chest out and we're going to keep walking. And we're not.
Did you have her dog on a leash or just?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Her dog was on a leash and Pal was on a leash as well. And because her dog is reactive. But I tried to explain to her. So we walked by the dog. He was a little, you know, a couple growls and stuff.
Yeah.
So we went down, we turned around, we did it again. By the third time, her dog was doing nothing, like literally walking with me. And it's not anything other than my demeanor, the way I'm feeling, I'm confident, and you know that. And she walks by a dog, she gets scared. Well, of course your dog's gonna get scared with you.
What? She must have been so like, wow, this is so cool. Makes sense.
I wish I had a picture of her because her mouth, I swear to God, it drew up. It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
So where is Pal right now? Is he resting?
Sound asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Trying to rest him. He's much better, but he got a little bit rambunctious today, and I could tell it might have set him back a little bit.
Oh, really?
Got a little too rambunctious.
Yeah.
But it's hard to keep a shepherd still.
It's got to be hard. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, it's been great. We need to do this again at some point, another year or so.
Sure.
A few months just to catch up. And I will send you that link to that article. And if you don't mind, I always love to close in a word of prayer. I'll pray for you and your continued training, and God will continue to heal your heart with loss of buddy. So, all right, let's do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Lord, thank you so much for this great time with a fellow dog lover. I thank you so much for Mike, and just the blessing that he's been to so many people with sharing his life with two dogs, and all of his life with all the dogs you've given. I know it's crazy, but think of that Willie Nelson song, to all the girls I've loved before, and all the dogs we've loved before.
Yes.
I think you get a chuckle out of that, Lord. And I know that because they mean so much to us as human beings, that, Lord, you've got a special place in heaven for them. And we thank you for that. Lord, bless Mike as he's continuing on the next trajectory of his life, this new season. And bless Pal. I pray that you would keep Pal from cancer. And Lord, continue to link Mike together with some resources of people who maybe will even find out more about this fluoride, if that is the cause, especially if it also affects human beings. We thank you for your love, and we give you this day, and we praise you for our great time together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right,
Thank
Mike,
you
if
so
you ever
much,
travel with your dogs, you are welcome to come and visit here us in Michigan. We've got a big backyard, and we know we travel with our dogs. How is Pal with traveling distances, by the way?
We haven't gone like Florida or anything crazy yet, but we've had he's been in the car 4 or 5 hours. He does okay. I mean, remember, he is a puppy, right? A year and a half. You're still a puppy, but he does good. He does really well. We're gonna go do a road trip as soon as Dairy Queen's gone. I'm 50, almost 59, and I've never, ever been away from May till September. I've always worked 7 days a week from May till September. So I'm looking forward to doing a little something this year.
That's great. So where can people find your posts? Facebook, Instagram,
TikTok and
TikTok.
YouTube. And it's all Buddy and Mike's Pal.
Buddy and Mike's Pal. All right.
Yes.
Hey, love you, brother. Have a good
Well,
one.
thank you, man. I appreciate
Thank you.
this.
This
I
was
enjoyed
great.
this. I really did. You're a good
Me
friend.
too. You are too. I love dog lovers. I'll send you a copy of this. I'll trim it up and send it to you tomorrow.
Please, thank you.
All right. God bless.
Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too.